And all of that leads us up into the big moves for Bitcoin early through next year. And we're looking there. The last number I had that was effective, I think, I actually calculated it out because the Bitcoin is coming in yuan. I have to go into a yuan to dollar conversion. So at the time I looked, the forecast would have been something around $13,000 per Bitcoin sometime February, March-ish of next year.
I actually don't think that is a stunning prediction to the degree that I've been following Bitcoin now so closely, and it appears to be, I've said in interviews, I think it could go to 10,000 as easily as zero. I mean, I think, and I don't think Bitcoin's going back to zero. There's too much interest because you notice as China clamped down on Bitcoin and the fake Bitcoin exchanges and whatever was happening there, Japan picked up the slack. So now Japan is acquiring Bitcoin hand over fist. The Japanese are, because they can see what's going on with Abe and the insanity with the yen, and the Japanese government's buying up all the stocks, and people are losing their minds because they know what's coming. What's coming is hyperinflation.
I don't think that that's it, actually. I don't think that I don't think the Japanese are seeing that. I think that what they did was that they got a copy of that Chinese white paper that was produced maybe January or February of last year. There was this white paper that came out and circulated in PBOC, and it had the most staggering plan you could ever imagine, okay? And it basically said if we, China Pop, were to take over Bitcoin and evenly distribute it, we could evenly distribute it in like 4 different ways through our social order and, in essence, empower the whole nation with a stable currency that once it reached this particular point would be so stable for decades, we wouldn't have to worry about all of these, the whipsaw actions of currencies. It'll keep us digital. You wouldn't believe it. There must have been 200 positive benefits from this plan that were listed in that white paper. And I think the Japanese are reading that, or at least someone in officialdom in Japan has read it, and they're starting to go that way. Because one of the things that that I took away from the white paper was that if they had one whole Bitcoin in each of these various regions, then each of these villages would be basically a millionaire when this particular Bitcoin reached $1 million, and that would provide the following benefit for the village, even if they never spent the Bitcoin. It would be basically as though they had $1 million worth of gold sitting there, and then one day everybody recognized it was worth $1 million, and then they could loan against it and do all this kind of stuff against it. And so the Chinese have this long term. I mean, we're talking, I think they talked about 4 or 5 year plans in there. So this is a 20-year plan.
All right, so guys, I know you can't see me, but Clif can, and my mouth was hanging open during that. I hadn't heard that. That white paper came from the People's Bank of China?
It was written by a minor functionary in the PBOC. It was a limited circulation. I got a very badly translated copy, and then I asked the guy, and I got some of the original text. I will see if I can locate the title. I was never given the title page or the name of the author, but there was some slip-ups in there, and I think I've sussed out who the author is. But I don't want to say because they're so closed mouth about it. But I will see if I can get that translation and put it on my site or send it to you or something so that we can get it out and about.
Okay, thanks, because I just want people to know where I'm coming from on Bitcoin. As Clif said, we're all on a continuum and we can all learn as we go. And so I was very closed-minded about Bitcoin early on. One of the early adopters I give credit to is Brother John F., who talked about it and followed Bitcoin, even started a Bitcoin channel. But then Bix Weir kind of came on board, and Andy Hoffman opened up his mind to Bitcoin. And I'm not a stupid person, so I'm like, I'm not going to sit here in my little camp saying Bitcoin's not real money. I'm just going to be gold and silver. I'm going to expand my mind a little bit. I'll buy a little Bitcoin as a bet, as a lotto card. It's a lotto card in case it does. Look, there's only 16 million Bitcoins, I believe, in circulation right now, and they're going to be capped at all time, guys, at 25 million Bitcoins. Think of the population of China alone. I'm just saying you might want to buy a Bitcoin just to have some skin in the game.
And our data sets are so solid on Bitcoin that I've been recommending it to people every chance I got since 2012, really since late 2011 with some of my private clients. And then I just went public with it in early 2012. I accept Bitcoin on my site and deal in it whenever I possibly can. But here's the real kicker. Our data sets are insistent that Bitcoin will become so well used that we're going to invent new words for it. And so once we start altering our language for a commercial product, then I know it's ingrained into the culture. I don't know what those new words are, but we're going to have a new word for decibits, and a 10th part of a Bitcoin, and then for millibits, the 1,000,000th part of a Bitcoin. So we'll have this, or excuse me, decibits. So those will be first, and then we'll get into the million parts, and it'll be slang. It'll be whatever, like give me a buck, only it'll mean, a millibit.
I want to say this too as it relates to Bitcoin. So we know the dollar is long in the tooth, and right now maybe it's the best of the worst. But between the U.S. dollar, the yen, the euro, the yuan, all fiat currencies eventually die. So Bitcoin, let's say it is left standing, and let's say that it creates all of these new millionaires, even if it's just because the dollar hyperinflates. And so, whereas it used to be $1,000 to buy a Bitcoin, now it's $100,000 because the dollar is losing so much value so quickly. That's one of the reasons you want Bitcoin. It's certainly one of the reasons you want to own some silver and gold in physical form.